Ground ball. Velasquez throws across. He's done it! Red Detmers throws a no-hitter! Truly incredible, amazing mark.
Yeah. Knowing the kid, great kid, a battler. What stuff, what a moment, something he will remember the rest of his life.
Gives me goosebumps. What a moment for 22-year-old Red Detmers in just his 11th major league start. Throws just the second no-hitter of the 2022 season, the first solo no-hitter of the year. Joining me now is Jim Callis with MLB Pipeline. And Jim, this is a kid that was just in the minor leagues last season, comes in, hasn't had a lot of big league experience under his belt, and throws a no-no. What more can you tell us about this special young man?
Yeah, I mean, I think that no-hitter showed people why the Angels took Red Detmers early in the 2020 draft. I mean, he hasn't had a lot of pro experience, got to the major leagues very, very quickly. And he was known coming out of Louisville as being a very polished pitcher, tremendous curveball. You know, he struggled some in the big leagues to that point, but, you know, you could see glimpses of it. He's not a guy who's going to throw 98 and blow the ball by you. He's going to locate his pitches well, and that's what he did. I mean, only 2 strikeouts in that no-hitter, which is a fairly low total for a no-hitter, but he can just really, really pitch, and I think he's going to be a mainstay in that Angels rotation for a long time.
And let's not forget to give some credit to Chad Wallach as well, of course, with Max Stassi and Kurt Suzuki on the IL. Chad Wallach caught that no-hitter, so you want to give credit to his battery mate as well. But it's not just the no-hitter, Jim, where Red Detmers has shined. He's had a nice season so far in his outings for the Angels, really adding a nice complement to their starting rotation.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key for him, I mean, look, we know that the curveball is really, really good. That was his signature pitch coming out of college, and it's played that well in the big leagues. I think the key for him to have success is to be able to keep guys off his fastball, because it's not a, we're not talking plus fastball he can just blow by guys, but when he locates that fastball, he's very, very effective, and he does have, of the young pitchers who were, top 100 prospects coming into the season, he's got some of the best control of any of those guys. So I think as long as he tweaks that fastball command just a little bit more, then he can be really successful for the Angels.
All right, for the Angels, the starter tonight is a young man that we're going to get to know quickly, Chase Silseth. Now, this is a guy, Jim, as you know better than anybody, that was drafted in 2021. He's the first pitcher from that draft that's already making his major league debut, if in fact he does pitch tonight against the Athletics. How are we sure that this is not too soon?
Well, I mean, he's had a lot of success in the minor leagues. And again, I mean, I think with pitchers, it's a little easier than hitters, honestly, Atlanta, that, if you have stuff and you're having success and you've had success in the minors, like, let's see if it translates in the big leagues. I mean, especially with the attrition rate with pitchers, rather than have them waste innings in the minors, if you think they're ready, let's see what they can do. And, of course, if he struggles, you can always send him back down. But it is pretty interesting. He was an 11th round pick last year by the Angels. And they took all pitchers, all 20 picks were pitchers last year, which was historic. I don't think anybody had Chase Silseth in their pool of first 2021 draftee to the big leagues. But, he pitched well, I believe, in the Cape Cod League last summer. He got an overslot bonus in the 11th round, and he's made a lot of progress in the minors. So, I don't know if this necessarily he's here to stay, but if he pitches well, who knows? But it's interesting to see that he's the first guy from that draft to get to the big leagues.
Yeah, it makes a little bit more sense considering the Angels have a 6-man rotation. But I am interested on your take in terms of guys coming up too quickly, Jim. I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago with Brian Snitker of the Atlanta Braves about perhaps guys do come up to the big leagues a little too quickly. They know how to have success in the minors, but they don't necessarily have failure in the minors. And when that happens at the big league level, they don't know how to handle it. What's your take on that?
I mean, I think there is some truth to that. I mean, you look at the guys, 2 of our top prospects coming into the season are struggling in the big leagues right now, Bobby Witt Jr. and Spencer Torkelson, and neither one's having much success in the big leagues right now. Now, that said, both those guys had really successful minor league seasons last year, got to AAA, thrived in AAA. So in their 2 cases, I don't know that it's, they weren't ready. I mean, I do think you have to be careful about rushing guys to the big leagues in general, and I do think, especially for hitters, the environment in the big leagues is so hard. I don't know if it's ever been harder to hit in the big leagues than it is right now, Lynn. I mean, you look at velocities up, fastball, movement profiles are nastier than ever. You've got sliders with more sweep, curveballs with more depth. The balls are not the balls that we've been playing with recently that travel as well. They don't. And so I think you should be ready. I agree with Brian Snitker in general. You need to make sure your guys are ready because it is tougher to hit in the big leagues than it ever has been before. And if they're not prepared to deal with failure, they very well might face it. Now, that said, like I said, I do think Witt and Torkelson were ready. They are struggling. The Royals and Tigers are trying to let them work through it, but their numbers are not pretty right now. There's no question.
Yeah, Bobby Witt Jr., the #1 overall prospect. Spencer Torkelson, the #4 overall prospect. I don't think anybody is worried about those two young men in the long term. One guy that is having success is Jerami Pena. Of course, big shoes to fill with the departure of Carlos Correa. What have you enjoyed about watching his game?
The question I always had about Jerami Pena when he came out of the University of Maine was how good was the bat going to be? And because he was known as much more of a defensive player coming into pro ball. And his first full season pro ball, he hit for average, not a lot of power. I saw him in the fall league. He was just kind of okay. And then you had the pandemic, so he didn't get to play. And then he had a wrist injury, and he missed most of last year. And he did hit a bunch of home runs in AAA in the final month of the season. And I'll admit, in my mind, I still was like, okay, is the power real? Or is it that real? Is it as real as we saw? Because it was just a month in AAA. And so far, it's been real. And, I think the nice thing about Jerami Pena that's made his acclimation to the big leagues easier, I think it's a couple things. One, he's the son of a big leaguer, Jerami Pena, so I don't think he's daunted by anything. I don't think he's surprised by anything he's facing in terms of just the adjustment to the big leagues and the big league lifestyle. But I also think what's maybe made it a little easier on him is even though the Astros are contending, so they're trying to win, he needs to perform, he's not thrust in a situation where okay, you're the future face of the franchise. We need you to carry the team. If Jerami Pena, hits 250 with 15 homers and plays the kind of defense he's capable of, that's probably good enough for the Astros. And he's obviously on pace to do a lot more than that. And I think he's got, last time I checked, 6 home runs. I don't know if he hit another one yesterday, but he's got 6 home runs. And he's playing very good defense. Is he going to be Carlos Correa? No, but he can be a really good shortstop, especially on the defensive side. And the Astros don't seem like they're missing a beat without Carlos.
Yeah, the Astros on a 10-game winning streak certainly doesn't have to carry the entire load by himself. Okay, Jared Keltner was drafted as the 6th overall pick by the New York Mets in the 2018 draft. He was traded later that year to the Mariners. Now he's going back to the Mets in terms of the team going back to the Mets, so the Mariners playing the New York Mets, not performing up to his capabilities so far this season. What have you noticed from his at-bats?
He's the one I really puzzle about, Atlanta, because I thought, I still think he's going to be a good player. And I thought, I didn't necessarily expect guys to come in and just tear it up right away from day one as a rookie, but he struggled a lot last year. He came back later in the season. He was better at the end of the season, the final 6 weeks, but he was still striking out a lot. And he's hitting 140 with, striking out like 37, 38% of the time. I am baffled by how much he's striking out because he did not do this. I don't know if it's snowballed on him. And, before I was saying, with Witt and Torkelson, you can still kind of say, oh, it's small sample size. It's 100 plate appearances or so. They've barely played a month in the big leagues. We're now 400-plus, plate appearances in the Jared Keltner's big league career. And he's striking out a ton. He's not even hitting 200, not hitting for a lot of power. I do think he's a potential 2020 guy who's going to hit for average, but he's gotten a lot of big league at-bats now, and he's just not doing it. It baffles me, and I don't know what to point to other than he is swinging and missing a lot more than I thought he would.
All right, a lot of this game is making sure that you can adjust quickly to what the pitchers are giving you. Hopefully Jared Keltner can do that soon. Jim Callis, MLB Pipeline, we appreciate your knowledge on this matter. Thanks so much.